I think we'll just wait for another 1 minute. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thumbprint Conversation. Tonight, our guest is Andaleeb Wajid. She calls herself a hybrid author. So that's quite interesting, Andaleeb. She calls herself a hybrid author, having published 25 novels in the past 10 years. And she writes in genres like romance, horror, and young adult. Her novels, House of Screams and the Tamanna Trilogy, have been optioned for screen earlier in 2020. Andaleeb also has an upcoming romance novel with Penguin in 2020. So, Andaleeb, I find it very interesting when you call yourself a hybrid author. So, what is a hybrid author? Who is a hybrid author?
Yeah, actually, not many people know this term. It's what it means is when you publish traditionally and when you self-publish. When you do both, uh, we tend to call such writers hybrid authors. So I don't exclusively self-publish. I don't exclusively publish with, traditional publishers. I do a mix of both. So that's why it's called hybrid. It I know it gives a weird sort of feeling. People, when they hear hybrid, all sorts of weird things come into their mind, but that's what it basically means, that I do both.
Okay, okay. And you've written 25 novels in the past 10 years. I mean, that's huge. So can you can you tell us, when did you start writing? I heard,
Uh,
I read somewhere that you had a comparatively early marriage. Did that help
yeah.
you or hamper
No,
your
uh,
career as a writer?
no, I was very fond of writing. I was very fond of telling stories right from school. So I started writing, like, scribbling sort of stories, imaginary stories, um, when I was around 10, 11 years old. But I never thought that it would become my career. I was I was just thinking that this is just something fun that I do. And going forward, I was never really sure that I would have a career, because I come from a very traditional, conservative family where women don't really go out to work. It's not expected from them. And I kind of, I had resigned myself that I would not have a career. But at the same time, I was not happy about that, because I felt that there was more to me. I felt that there was definitely more that I had to give. And writing was not something that interfered with anything, as in it's something I could do in the privacy of my room, of my house. And I started writing fiction. I started out with writing middles. You have those small anecdotes in, in newspapers. Not all papers carry them.
Mhm.
And I was in college when one of them got published. So it was very gratifying, that someone had chosen to publish my middle. And I think, yeah, I got married very early. And then when I had my son, I was pregnant, and I had absolutely nothing to do. So I was
Mm.
just dying of boredom, and I started writing again. And I sent off one to Open Sesame, a short story to Open Sesame, which was this supplement for children. I
Mm.
grew up reading it, so I sent out a story there. And after my son was born, it was published. So I got to know from someone that the story had appeared with my name in it. And that kind of set me off on a journey to start writing fiction for children. So I originally started out writing fiction for children.
Mm.
And I wrote for Open Sesame and for a few magazines for 8 to 10 years. And then I started writing fiction, short stories for adults, general fiction. And I've been writing, I kind of moved to this slowly. I liked the larger canvas of a novel. Although my first novel took me very long time to write, it kind of, once I got the hang of it, once I got, I went in completely blind. As in, I had no training and I had no idea. about plot, structure, characterization, nothing. I just went in, jumped in, thinking that I could do it. And once that first book came out, I was able to start writing more. So the early marriage, I wouldn't say. What I think is how it helped is that because of the early marriage, I had my kids early, so they're grown up now, and I'm more or less free to continue with my passion, for writing. So they're not small. So
Yeah. And when you said that when you started off, you didn't know anything about writing and publishing. So did
yes,
you also have that fear that who will publish my writing? That fear is always
yes,
there,
my
yeah.
first novel was rejected some 12 to 13 times with different publishers. And this was back in the year 2005.
Okay.
Yes, 2005. So there was, we didn't have that much knowledge about the publishing industry. It was very hazy. You didn't really know whom to send things to. The internet was there, but you didn't really know what and how to do things. Things are much clearer, much well defined now. I mean, you can reach out to editors, publishers on social media. Social media was just beginning then.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was in Facebook also. And it was just something that was developing, and I was absolutely, yes, I was terrified that no one would publish it. And I think more than the fear of no one publishing it, there was also this fear that I was not a good writer. And he said, why don't you just forget that you wrote this book and move on to the next one? I said, are you mad? If no one wants to read the first book, why would anyone want to read another book by me? Why should I, put my effort into another book? Because that was what my thinking was. Then it got published by a small publisher, and I got some decent reviews, and then I kind of got into the hang of writing, and I just couldn't stop.
Okay. And you had said, once, whenever you go for lit fest, etc., people see you in your hijab or your burqa, and the initial reaction is that people think that you write in Urdu. So, what has been, how has been this journey? And you have written on diverse topics like food, relationships, and weddings in a Muslim context. So did you ever consciously try to challenge the stereotypical representation of Muslim lives through your stories, or trying to normalize Muslim
So
lives?
yeah. So I didn't really, set out to break any stereotypes because, to be very honest, I consider myself a storyteller first. So for me, the integrity of the story is very important. And my characters were Muslims. The setting was Muslim because I was most comfortable writing about that milieu. It came very naturally to me. So I just jumped into it, and I would get on with the story. So the characters, the situations were Muslim. It was all incidental. There is no, it's not. I think what Muslims face today is this whole otherization, which is that you are the other. And my books try to tell readers that that is not the case. So we're just as Indian as you, and we go through the same things as you. So those are the points of normalization. But also these things they crept in very organically. It's not a deliberate attempt, that I will set out to set the set the record straight about how Muslim people live. So I didn't do that. I never intended to do that. My characters are strong-willed people because that's how I like to see myself, a part of me. And also, it's a projection of what I want to see, you know, in young Muslim women.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an amalgamation of all that, and not just this whole breaking of stereotypes. This whole stereotype itself, like you mentioned earlier about this whole lit fests, and you know, it's not just lit fest. Anywhere, if I introduce myself, like earlier today, I had gone to the eye doctor, and you know, she was asking me what I do and why, you know, about my glasses. So I told her I'm a writer. She asked, what do you write? I told her I write fiction. She said, in English. I said, yes, in English. You know, so it's just something. I'm just like, it's water off my back now. I'm not irritated about it, but it's just something that I've got used to. And I think it serves a purpose that, you know, she is also thinking that, oh, okay, interesting, this girl in a burqa who's come here, so she writes in English. So, you know, it's just something that it's incidental what's happening. Um, and yeah, so you know, I really don't think about it so much. Even no matter what the situation is, I try to write about normal people, relatable characters mostly, um, you know, which people can feel like, I could know this person, I could meet this person somewhere, that sort of thing. Even in my romance novels, which, you know, romances have these very larger than life heroes, you know, and dashing heroes who are billionaires. I don't write about those sort of people at all. So my characters are very down to earth. They're very relatable. They are absolutely not, you know, the typical alpha male characters. So that's been what I've been. I mean, that's what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any of your books with you? We would also love to hear an excerpt.
Okay, my books. So I've shut myself in my room and I've told everyone, do not come inside. All my books are outside. I don't have anything here with me.
Uh-huh.
What exactly did you, I mean, did you want to me to read out from one of my books?
Yeah, if that's possible.
I mean, okay, my computer is right here, so I can just probably
Uh-huh.
just read out something
In
from
fact,
here.
you know, I had read about your book More Than Just Biryani. You know, that
Yeah,
title sounds so interesting because
yeah,
uh, it again, you know, it's another stereotype, you know, that Muslims
yes,
eat only
it is.
biryani.
It's actually, yes, it's actually, you know, that was what led to that whole, you know, me writing that book, because it's growing up. I've always seen how people just assume that, you know, I bring biryani to lunch every day,
Hmm.
or you know, and it's a kind of you know, definitely food has I don't know, there is a sort of racism sort of thing associated with food, and food is definitely very political, as we all know today.
Hmm.
But for me, the whole concept of how, you know, Muslims eating only biryani sort of thing, it kind of became this thing where I wanted to write a non-fiction book and talk about the various recipes, especially South India. So I'm South Indian. I'm from Tamil Nadu. So
Hmm.
our, you know, our the kind of food that is made at home.
Hmm.
So biryani is not like the one and only thing that is made. There are lots of different dishes, and that was my intention. But I'm not very good at writing anything other than fiction. You know, so fiction is like my mainstay. You know, if you ask me to write a story, I will write a really good story. But if you
Hmm.
ask me to write a recipe book, I kind of sat on it for 2 years and I gave up. So I then finally decided to write More Than Just Biryani as fiction of
Hmm.
three women
Hmm.
from the same family, you know, different generations, and their relationship with food and the people in their lives. So, do you want me to read out something from More Than Just Biryani?
Yeah, if that's possible. Yeah.
Okay, let me just uh, decide what to read out.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So there is this. So there are three characters in this, and you know the Can we do this later? Can I read out later?
Uh, yeah, because your internet is there's a lag. I mean, in between. Okay,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can do that later. So you can
yeah.
maybe tell us about that book, or yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, it's a story of these three women and the relationship with food and it's a
Mm,
romance. It's not a
mm,
straight cut romance like, the current romance novels I'm writing. It's more of a saga sort of thing because it extends across three generations and what women, like cooking.
mm.
So it's actually a uh, I mean,
Yeah.
I should have chosen this before, and we would have definitely,
Mhm. Actually, the kitchen is such an interesting place, no? Where you have so many
definitely,
ingredients, so many
definitely,
things happening, so many things cooking actually.
yeah.
Mm,
I actually kind of wrote about it a little bit, where I felt that uh, for women, a kitchen is like definitely it's their domain for most women of the house. It's considered so there is a sort of uh, a relationship between the kitchen and who runs the house.
mm,
So like literally like the person who runs the kitchen is the one who's running the house. So
mm,
there is that always that that sort of um, push and pull with the daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law about who gets to do this. It's not even a question of I don't like cooking. It's more of a question of it's like sort of a duty sort of thing. So that sort of things I've explored. And there is someone who so like the heroine's name is Zubi, and her grandmother hates cooking. So I've talked about that, and but it's not like everyone loves cooking. So basically, it's about this girl who starts a YouTube channel. So I wrote this book a very long time ago. So now YouTube channels and now people are putting up recipes on TikTok and on all social media. So when I
mm,
wrote this book, there weren't that many YouTubers who were recording their videos and all that. So
mm,
so the story is set in partly in Bangalore, partly in Vellore, and partly in Hong Kong. So where
mm,
the heroine Zubi lives in Hong Kong with her husband and her son.
mm,
So it's a story which connects all three, and how she starts a YouTube channel
mm,
to teach people how to cook. So she showcases the recipes that she knows and all that, and and this is something that she's done for herself. Her husband doesn't know. He doesn't know about this aspect of her. And there is a journalist who is kind of documenting this and who wants to write a book about all this. So that's kind of the forms the crux of the story.
mhm. And most of the female characters in your books have agency.
Hmm.
So that is
Yes.
something. Please tell us
So
something.
that is,
Why did about your characterization of your female characters?
I think it's very important that, women, if, in real life, so many women don't have agency to do what they want in their lives. They are, either forced by people or circumstances or families to do things like, say, get married or do whatever it is. They don't have that choice. And it's very frustrating, it's very disheartening. And I wanted to write about people. I wanted to create a, a fictional world where women do have agency, and they they go out and get what they want.
Mm,
And I wanted to show that it's not impossible. I'm sure this is going to cause a lot of problems in many people, where if young girls are going to just follow whatever my heroines do. But I also wanted to show that it's possible. And especially, standing up for yourself
mm,
and having difficult conversations, and simple things like getting a job. so many girls. I've never made a big deal about it in my books, in my recent books. It's just something that the girls are doing. So even if they are Muslim girls or whatever, it's just something that they are doing. So that again, it serves that dual purpose of, like we spoke about, normalizing Muslim lives. It also serves this thing about normalizing the idea of women being independent within the Muslim families, where women are expected to be a certain way. So, that was, I would say, a part of it was definitely deliberate.
Okay. And as you said, we have said this, that you have written 25 novels in the past 10 years. And coming from, we know the reaction outside your social milieu, outside your family. And so within your family and your circle, close circle, how was the reaction? Oh, this lady, she's writing and she's been writing for so many years, so was there what are the reactions that you get, from within your family and your
So,
circle?
people, like I said, I started writing fiction for children. So a lot of people were familiar with my name appearing in the newspaper because I was writing a lot of fiction for children.
And
And
that started quite early, I suppose.
yeah, I was around 21, I think. So that time I was writing, so people had got used to seeing my name in the paper. So this seemed like a natural progression. And although I know not a few people in my family have read my books, a few people, but not many. Not, I wouldn't say, like, especially there's some people to anyone, at any point. So it's been very, I would say, people have just been very happy, very pleased. Within my family, I would say the being pleased about me being a writer, getting my books published, a major part of it is because of my name. My name carries my father's name in it. I haven't changed my name after my marriage. My Andaleeb Wajid. Wajid is my father's name. So, so within my family, everyone feels very thrilled when they see my name out there, because my father's name is also being perpetuated in that. I think that's what I mean. This is what I feel, because, they feel that way. Like my father's brothers and all of them, they feel this. Outside the family also, I think people feel very happy. And I don't know, I
And
wouldn't say, I wouldn't go so far to say as odd or anything, but they feel very happy.
but inspired, did you inspire any?
Inspired, I think so, in different ways. So I've always talked to young women, and I've told them, that there is a life beyond your immediate family, beyond, this. So there is, try and do something for yourself, something that is just for you. Like the writing is for me, but also it's become my career now. I started it as a way to keep myself, what do I say, not getting drawn into that whole, thing of family and, being a housebound person. It started off that way, but it evolved into something else for me, especially as I continued writing books, as they kept getting published. So it evolved into something bigger for me. So I try to tell people to keep, So I found a paragraph that I want
Yeah,
to read out. Do you want me to
sure,
read it out?
sure.
So this is the part where Zubi is recording the thing for her video. So it starts off like this. Muslims don't eat biryani for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Some of us would like to, but we don't. The idea that connects Muslims to biryani is so prominent that I wouldn't even like to call it a misconception. I agree that we haven't done much in way of proving. So she's talking to the camera basically while she's doing this. So we haven't done much in way of proving to the world what other things we can cook and eat so well. Witness any of our weddings, and people, especially our non-Muslim friends, can be seen looking slightly harried, wondering when that elusive call for lunch or dinner will come, which is again biryani. Zubi dropped whole garam masalas like long ilaichi and dalchini inside a pot as she turned and spoke to the camera. She had a slight smile on her face as she dropped a bunch of sliced onions inside the pot. So what I've done is, throughout the book, I've given recipes like this, I've described them, and quite a few people have cooked following this, even though there are no measurements. Some people wanted to ask, why didn't I give measurements at the end of each chapter? I've told you before, like during this, as part of this conversation, that for me, the integrity of a story is very important. So I didn't want anything that would interrupt, anything. So almost every chapter has a description of a dish. So, where people, if they are little, cooking is, there's always this argument whether cooking is an art or a science. So, for people who consider cooking as an art, they can just kind of, figure out, and a lot of people have done that. So, she had important elements. She's speaking again to the camera. The akhni and the adan, both are extremely crucial to get the taste right. And she stirred the onions around in the oil. If you're going to make biryani, you'll have to stop cringing at the amount of oil you'll end up using. Believe me, you will, she said, as she picked up the camera and pointed it towards the pot where the onions sizzled in the hot oil. You see those onions in the oil? They have to be practically swimming in oil, if not floating, she quipped as she replaced the camera to its original position. So it goes on this way. So she's talking about how to cook while she's showing it. And so that's I think it's towards, there's a lot of disturbance, I think, coming from, is it from my side?
Yeah, it's on your side. Yeah, but now you are better now. Yeah, you can carry on.
So so it goes on that way, so she's basically describing how to make biryani, and she's recording this as part of that whole, where, and then she's uploading it on YouTube. So all this is a very new thing. She's out of her element. She's not in her own city. She's not, she has a very difficult relationship with her mother, and she's in a different, she's in a foreign city, and although, so she's also someone who's very emotionally unavailable, as in she's not able to commit emotionally to how much she loves her husband. So that forms the crux of the story. So that's about it. I think, more than that, I really can't say much about it in this space of time.
And I just wanted to ask you, Andaleeb, why fiction? Is it that you're trying to run away from the world of the real world?
Yes, yes. I feel that sometimes, I think fiction is one of the things that has really kept me grounded. The ability to lose myself in another world where everything is in my control. So I am the puppeteer, I am holding the strings. So the ability to lose myself in that for a few hours every day is what makes I wouldn't say that, that my life is unbearable or anything, but it makes life much more fun. I wouldn't even say that it makes life bearable, but it makes life much more fun and interesting. Now, especially, at least before there was this, we would travel, I would travel to Litfest and all that. Now everyone is stuck in their houses, and, the possibility of escaping this while I'm writing is one of the ways it has helped me deal with all the stuff that's happening. It's definitely an escape for me. Writing fiction is an escape, and why writing fiction is because I told you earlier, I suck at writing nonfiction. I will take forever to write nonfiction, but if you ask me to write something, fictionalize something, and create a story, I will sit and do it without any qualms.
And how do you manage to write so much? Are you? Yeah.
No, I didn't hear you.
Now, how do you manage to write so much? Where do you get your ideas from?
So I treat my writing as a job. So writing is not a hobby for me. It's not something that I do when I have a little time, extra time. So this is a job for me. So I take it very seriously. I sit down. I write through the week. So I don't take weekends also off. I write through the week, especially when I'm writing a book. I have to write at least a chapter a day, and it's not difficult when you're writing fiction, I feel, because I've plotted it out. I have the gist of the story written down in my notebook, and I'm just following through. And so that it's if I write a chapter a day, and a chapter is around 1,500 words, so easily, I will probably finish the in 1.5 months or 2 months at the most. Now I take faster because I'm I don't have any other job. So I was working earlier, a few years ago, 2014 to 2016. I was working as the head of marketing at a software company. So, and in between, I do freelance and all that. But writing fiction is my true love, and now I'm writing only that. So I treat it like a job. So it's the only way to be productive.
So you're working for Andaleeb Wajid now.
Yes.
So it's a job.
Very, very, very hard taskmaster,
Okay. And
So because I don't even if I haven't written my quota for the day, I don't allow myself to take a nap also. So I was like, no, you finish this and then only you can go take a nap. I sound psychotic, I know, but
so what is it that keeps you ticking? I mean, is there something that are you ambitious? Are you do you want to reach somewhere, or do you want to, what is it that you
so
have to write every day?
Yeah, so I would say this. So I have to write every day because the stories are there, and despite even after all these years of writing, even after all these books, there's always that fear that the stories will not be there one day, So while they're there, I want to make the best use of that time. But also I'm very ambitious. And, I definitely want to sell a lot of books and make a lot of money. So, I am not writing with just this whole, I definitely want more readers. I want more readers to read my work and appreciate it and, enjoy it. And I also want to make money at the same time. So, it's all tied up with that.
So, do you also then write with keeping the market in mind? What the readers want to read, or is it that what I want to write? It's like
No, it's always what I want to write, which is why we hit that bestseller, whatever. I'm not, eventually one day they will, and it's okay. I have readers. I have a good number of readers who, especially since I started self-publishing, they are quite eager to see me bring out more books regularly. So I think they're enjoying what I'm writing right now. Although I think right now my readership consists more of romance readers, but I also enjoy writing horror. So when I'm back in that mood, then I don't know, So whether I lose this bunch of readers, and but that's okay. It'll settle. Eventually, it'll settle down. But I write for myself what I want to write.
And you spoke about self-publishing. So can you tell us something about the nuances of self-publishing, or what is self-publishing?
So self-publishing has been around for a very long time. It's been around for a very long time in different formats. So people they were called vanity publishing, vanity presses, where people wanted to get their books published. It could be a coffee table book, it could be a memoir or something, and they didn't, either they didn't know how to get it published through a publisher, and they would just get it done. There would be a publishing house who would, for money, they would print these books for you. But that definition has evolved a lot now, especially after Amazon has come, and Amazon has it's called KDP Select, Kindle Direct Publishing. So once you you can publish, you can self-publish your book on Amazon. If your manuscript is ready, you can upload it, and it goes live in just like 3 to 4 hours. The downside about this is that everything is on your, or it's on you. So you have to have an you have to get the editing done, the cover design done, all these things you have to do it yourself. So, or you, of course, you outsource it to people if you can't do it yourself, but it's basically the onus is on you, message that readers will appreciate.
Okay.
So Amazon
And
has made it very easy, actually. Yeah.
okay, carry on.
No, so Amazon has made it very easy. Anyone can follow their steps and self-publish their books. So it's very simple and very easy, and it doesn't take long. So you have to, before you put it out there, you have to decide whether you want to take this step, because it's a very big step. So you're self-publishing, and instantly people will have access to your books, to your book, to your thoughts, to your ideas. So you have to decide, and with traditional publishing, everything takes time, from the time the publisher accepts your work to the time the editing takes place and the cover design, and finally it goes to print, and all that happens. But self-publishing happens instantly. So there is no, like, unless you take time to, you know if you're like me, always in a hurry, then you will just hit the publish button. But then you have to also think whether this is something that you want to do.
Can you edit it later? I mean, once you have published it?
Yeah, you can edit and you can re-upload the edited version, so that's not a problem.
Okay.
It's
And
very simple, it's very user friendly.
okay. And your two of your novels, A House of Screams and the Tamanna Trilogy, has been optioned for Screen
Yeah.
earlier in 2020. Can you tell us something about it? They'll be made into some
So
kind of a series, web series?
I don't know yet. That it's not very clear yet. So House of Screams is one novel. Tamanna Trilogy is a set of 3 novels, actually. So all 3 have been taken by this production house. So nothing's very clear yet, and it's been taken on, but it'll take a little time for things to move forward from there. Whether they want to do a series or they want to make it into a movie, it's all up to them.
Okay. And what's your typical writing day like?
So, get up in the morning, and I mean, everything else for me seems secondary, like, things like making tea, getting breakfast ready. Like, can I just finish with all this and just sit down and write? So, so that's like, everything is, I just finish off with everything and then come back and sit. And I try to write. So I kind of divide my day into 2 parts, especially since I do freelance and I do a bit of content editing and all that, which is, sort of like bread and butter work. So I try and do my writing, whatever it is, by 12 o'clock or 12:30 at least in the afternoon. So the rest of the day, I try and finish all this. And in the evening, if I have some time, it's like bonus for me. So I will sit and write some more. So it's mostly, I mean, if I have to write continuously, it gets boring. So I take breaks, I'll watch something. And there, of course, house is also there. It's not like, but then the house the house is not really so much my responsibility, so I kind of just focus on writing.
Okay. And has technology changed lives for women like you, who wanted to carve a niche for yourself, or
Yes,
wanted to break
absolutely.
out?
Absolutely. I don't think even 10% of the things I've been able to achieve would be possible without technology. And it's not just me, a lot of people, I mean, the internet has made lives much more easier, and, the ability to get work, writing work, editing work, all that's possible because of the internet, because of, and I'm very comfortable writing on the computer. So all these things kind of just add up, and definitely technology has made a huge difference. Back when when I started writing, I wrote that book, my first novel, also on a computer, but I had to take a printout of all the 150 or 200 pages and send it, physically send courier a copy to publishers in Delhi, because a few of them didn't have email IDs then. So the amount of money I spent on that, and never heard back from them whether they got it or not also. But now everything happens instantly because of technology. You send something out and everything happens, like, back and forth. So much is made accessible and easier. So
And
it's definitely helped.
and how would you like to be remembered as, that lady who, just,
I don't want to be remembered as the person who wrote like a machine or something, but
So I'll just check if there are any questions. Yeah, people are
sure.
watching, but I don't think they have any questions for you. If you have any questions, Andaleeb can take your questions. And I was just wondering, what is there any book that you have not written and you would like to write? Is there any theme, any any idea that's
So
there?
I love no, not so much an idea, but a genre which I really like is crime. And I love writing. I mean, I love reading crime fiction, but I don't think I can do that. A police procedural, those sort of things, which I think would require a lot of research, a lot of things, legwork.
Hello. Yeah.
So
There was
yeah,
a lag.
I
So
think in between I was, yes.
Andaleeb, yeah, there was a lag. So would you mind repeating what you said, because we didn't hear you?
So I said that yeah, so a genre that I really enjoy reading is crime fiction, and I don't think I would be able to write it because of the actual physical legwork that would be involved, the kind of research that would be involved. I'm not inclined to do that. So I love reading police procedurals and those sort of things, and I love watching those shows also. But I think I feel it's beyond my capacity to write that. Another genre that I would really love to write is fantasy, and I hope to write it soon. I
And
have written one, but it needs a little more work, so I've kind of just left it to rest.
and is it easy to write horror stories?
No, it's very difficult to write horror, because what happens is that, it's easy to get scared by horror movies, because they rely a lot on jump scares and music and sudden loud music, and to create that atmosphere of tension while you're writing, and then to hope that the reader will get it, is not easy. And it's something I discovered when I was writing my horror novel. It I was, because I also I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. Even though I like horror, writing horror and watching horror, I'm quite scared myself. I get scared easily. So writing horror kind of puts me in the driver's seat,
Mm.
and I had no idea whether I was any good at it, whether this was actually scaring people or whether it was cheesy enough. So that was the thing.
Mhm. So there's a question
We
from
have a
Milan.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Milan Gora. You've been
Yeah.
straddling both self-publishing and traditional publishing. Do you have can't read it.
Do you have a separate place in your head for both?
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
read it,
yeah.
Teresa. Do
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
a
yeah,
separate place in your head for both?
yeah.
I haven't really thought about that so kind of clearly, Milan. I think traditional publishing, I do tend to write, knowing that I have an editor who will look out for me, who will, if she finds something wrong in this, she will get back to me. We will work it out. So I think traditional publishing, I tend to take those books. I'm not that scared about those books as I am when I'm putting out a self-published book, because it's all me. So in my head, the self-publishing books are a bigger risk, because at the moment I can't afford an editor. So it's all me. So somehow some typo will creep in, and it's not about the typos also. It's about the overall edits, which again is something that I mean, I do have a couple of beta readers, but they're not editors, no? They won't have that knack of finding things. So every time I put out a book in the self-publishing space, I'm really terrified, because I don't know what readers are going to think about it and whether they're going to like it or not. So that's the only thing. So I kind of tend to breathe easily when it's traditional publishing, because I have a team behind me. There are people who will read, there are proofreaders, there are line editors, there are, my editor who will go through, to check for structural integrity and those sort of things. So that's the only difference in my head.
And when you self-publish, how do you publicize or how do you market the book? Because
Social
then you
media.
don't social media. Okay. So
Social media,
how
social
has social
media.
media helped you? Just tell us something.
So, the trick is to, thanks for asking the question, Milan. So, the trick is to not beat people over the head with, that this is my book, it's come out. I'm always a little scared that I'm doing that, because I'm talking so much about my book that's come out. But I also feel that unless I talk about it, no one's going to know that this book is out. So, one of the things to do is to, use reviews from readers, and, post that on social media, saying that this, readers have found this. So one of the disadvantages of self-publishing is that you don't get reviewed in traditional spaces like newspapers and magazines. People don't review your books there. They've never heard of your books there. So the whole self-publishing industry is a very different industry. So there, what the reliance is on uh, reader reviews, readers reviewing your book on Amazon, on Goodreads. So you usually take snippets of those reviews, share it on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I also have a newsletter, and so I try to share excerpts of my novels, of my writing, whatever, on the newsletter, and get people interested. It's not an instantaneous thing. This is like, you have to do this for the long term. You have to be in this for the long race sort of thing, and you have to understand that it's going to take time.
So
I'm talking about the whole self-publishing thing also.
yeah. So it's been wonderful talking to you, actually. Would like to, connect with Andaleeb, can do so directly. I mean, she's active on social media, so you can post your questions there. So it was lovely talking to you, Andaleeb, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Teresa, and thank you for everyone who watched. I hope I answered some of your, the questions that you may have thought of but didn't ask. And like she said, I'm on social media. You can always ask me.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.